Welcome to Rex Factor!
This week, Edgar the Ætheling. With your hosts, Graham Duke and Ali Hood.
Hello, and welcome to Rex Factor, reviewing all the Nearly Monarchs of England and the United Kingdom from Ethelwald to Albert Victor, the people who could or should become monarch only for fate to intervene. Head to our website, rexfactorpodcast.com, to find links to all our social media pages, and if you want more of us, you can sign up to join the Privy Council at patreon.com/rexfactor, where you get an ad-free version of the podcast and over 450 bonus episodes.
Nice.
Plus, you can watch us on Spotify or YouTube, as long as both of our phones manage to hold out for the entire episode, which hasn't happened in the last couple.
Yeah, and even this episode.
Yes. Now, today we are going to be discussing Edgar the Ætheling. Is the last in our Saxon mini-series for Nearly Monarchs, and appropriately, he is the last Anglo-Saxon prince, often forgotten about or sort of looked over when it comes to the story of 1066, but actually he's the one that's got the best claim to the throne.
Yeah, because that's the regular run of things. These other two are outsiders.
Exactly. So we're going to find out if he had the best claim, how come it never quite happened for Edgar in 1066, and then what does he do afterwards?
Biography!
Edgar the Ætheling is born in Hungary in about 1052, the son of Edward the Exile, that we did a few episodes ago, and Agatha, of disputed but notable origins. His father is the son of Anglo-Saxon warrior King Edmund Ironside and was forced into exile after a Viking conquest of England in 1016. So he travels across Scandinavia, Kievan Rus and Hungary before returning to England in 1057 to become the heir to the childless Edward the Confessor, only to die pretty much the moment that he sets foot in England. Now, it's unclear if Edgar arrives in England with his father or shortly after his death, but nevertheless, pretty early on, he does come to England and he enters the household of Edward the Confessor and his wife, Edith, who's the sister of Edward's leading nobleman, Harold Godwinson.
He must have been a complete foreigner, though, in culture, language, looks, the way he dressed, everything, right?
He's this strange little 5-year-old boy from Hungary.
Oh, 5.
But still, it's an odd approach for the family. But nevertheless, they are there and they join the royal household. Lacking their own children, Edward and Edith seem to have brought Edgar and his siblings, Margaret and Christina, up sort of as if their own children, along with other high-born children, and make sure they get a very highly cultured education.
Nice.
Now, the big question is, what was Edgar's status at court now that his father had died?
Yeah.
Was he Edward the Confessor's heir?
Yeah.
Or is he just sort of there and no one's sure what to do with him?
That's the feeling I've always got.
Strangely absent from most narratives, including the Bayeux Tapestry, he is not in that at all. Many assume, like you said, that he's not a serious contender. The Carmen de Hastingi Proelio, which is the earliest written account of the Battle of Hastings, said of him, Edward's great-nephew, Edgar, was still very young. Against him, however, were his extreme youth, his foreign birth, and perhaps his character.
Against him? Oh, right. I always thought that was a plus for him. Nice bloke.
Well, I mean, maybe that's a plus in terms of, the man, but not necessarily
the job.
But yes, foreign-born, no lands or obvious allies, facing the likes of Harold Godwinson, William Duke of Normandy, and Harold Hardrada.
And he's 5?
And he's 5 at this point. But, these are 3 of the most impressive military leaders of their day. What hope does he really have in 1066?
Yeah.
So it would be understandable if, as some has suggested, Edward the Confessor decided it's just a non-starter. Can't be bothered. But England had boy kings before, and there were recent contemporary precedents in Germany and France in the last few years. And whilst the Saxon succession, as we've been discussing this series, doesn't operate under strict line of precedence, a close blood link was important. And the only way to ensure the support of the Witan, really, is to have a full-on legitimate royal prince.
Right.
To claim the throne. That's how Edward the Confessor himself had become king after 20-odd years in exile when the Vikings took over. That's why he recalled Edgar's father in the first place, because those ties of blood were so strong that they could, even an exiled prince of 40 years could nevertheless still get people to be around them. And the only legitimate royal prince in 1066 is Edgar. He's the only one.
Yeah, because the other fella's a duke.
Hmm.
The other fella's a king.
A duke of a different
Country,
yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And there is evidence that Edgar was recognised as heir. His father, the Exile, is buried at St Paul's alongside Edward the Confessor's father, rather than at Glastonbury, where Edward the Exile's own father is actually buried. So that is sort of publicly proclaiming by Edward that the family is connected to him. It's his part of the family, rather than a separate one, which feels like he's saying, yes, Edgar's part of my group. Edgar is designated Ætheling, which we've heard many times in this series, meaning he is throne-worthy. And it's pretty much the first time in about 200 years that an Ætheling was not the son of a previous monarch.
Right.
Because he's a grandson of Edward the Ætheling, not a son. Well, but that means that it's not an automatic thing. It suggests that Edward the Confessor actively chose to grant him the title of Ætheling.
Yeah.
Because it was unusual.
But also it's just a crack, isn't it? It's that one weakness to exploit.
It's a crack, but when we're talking about what the plans were for Edgar, the fact that Edward the Confessor gives him this title suggests he would only have done that if he wanted to designate him as heir.
Yeah.
It must really mean heir when he does that.
Yeah.
So, he's an Ætheling, by choice, by Edward. We have the Liber Vitae of Newminster in Wessex from about sort of somewhere between 1060 and 63, which lists a ceremony where honorary members were inducted. And it lists King Edward, Queen Edith, and they are followed immediately in the group, in the sentence, by Edgar Cleto.
Oh, Cleto, yeah.
Which is like Latin for Ætheling, but often we've seen used to denote heir. So that's suggesting that they are, and also that they are being grouped as a family unit. So effectively, Edgar being presented as an adopted son.
Yeah, completely.
And we've seen in our consort series how queen mothers often had such a prominent role. So Edith being younger than Edward, you could see that she is the queen dowager. The adoptive queen mother could have had an important, effective regency role.
Yeah.
She is the sister of Harold Godwinson, who you might have hoped would thus be the sort of guardian of the realm, the military leader. Yeah. There's evidence that Edward was pursuing a marriage alliance between Malcolm III, the King of Scots, and Edgar's sister Margaret, which would give you a foreign, external sort of source of alliance and protection. So Edward the Confessor may have felt that he actually had sorted out the succession for 1066 and that everything was in place, and Edgar was just the heir and there wasn't really any question mark about it.
Yeah, that does sound like it.
Unfortunately, though, when Edward died on the 5th of January 1066, he was instead succeeded by Harold Godwinson.
How did that come about again?
Well, exactly. How does it go so wrong if the plan was for Edgar? So the official explanation is that Edward declared Harold his heir on his deathbed.
Oh, yeah.
So I guess maybe a last moment of like, Edgar's never going to be him. Okay, you do it, Harold. You're the only hope we have. However...
Was Harold the only person to hear this?
Basically, yes. So there is actually plenty of evidence to suggest that Harold usurped the throne in 1066. So the abbot of Bury St Edmunds, who was the physician of Edward's and quite possibly at the deathbed, said that he seized the throne with cunning force and his coronation was sacrilegious.
I've always got... what's his name? Richard, Duke of York vibes about Godwinson. So it doesn't surprise me.
A definitive eyewitness is Edith, Queen Dowager, who is there. She commissioned the Vita Edwardi, which describes the deathbed scene on which the Bayeux tapestry depiction is essentially based. And in her text it says, "And stretching forth his hand to his governor, her brother Harold, he said, I commend this woman and all the kingdom to your protection. Serve and honour her with faithful obedience as your lady and sister, which she is, and do not despoil her of any due honour got from me."
Well, he's saying that he's given it to her.
Well, that's the thing. You see, the phrase "to your protection" could imply Harold as the heir, but it sounds more like a form of guardian or regency. Indeed, the Latin word nutritius was also used in the same document, the Vita Edwardi, to describe the situation of the boy King Henry I being entrusted to a guardian, a nutritius. So the same word, not king, not heir, guardian, protection, it implies Harold is meant to be the strong arm, the protector, but not the king.
It's Richard, Duke of York, isn't it?
Hariolf, a monk at the Abbey of San Recchio, who had close ties to the court, wrote in the late 11th century that Harold had reneged on the sacramental oath which he had sworn to the aforesaid king, pledging that he would concede the kingdom to the king's great nephew named Edgar, without any impediment. So the question is, how does Harold pull it off? That's it indeed. And probably it's just basic power. He's just too powerful to resist. He's the major landowner in England. He's effectively been running the country for several years already. And his younger brothers have got various earldoms in east and south of the country, and he agrees to marry the sister of the Earls of Mercia and Northumbria, so it's effectively solidifying his support across the entire nation. Perhaps the knowledge of William's likely invasion focused his minds a little bit more on having an experienced warrior rather than a teenage boy. They thought, well, probably we've got something coming. Better off having the big strong man that fights wars than the teenage boy.
Yeah, it can't help but, I mean, even if it were power, the situation has to allow it, doesn't it? It did rather.
But perhaps misguided, because of course it doesn't all work out to that end. So ultimately, of course, William will invade, and Harold is waiting for him in the south, only to be surprised, as we were talking about last time with the northern invasion of Harold Hardrada. So he zooms up, deals with the Vikings, but of course English forces are seriously weakened as a result of the Battle of Stamford Bridge, and then William lands a few days later in the south, so Harold has to come all the way back down again, fights the Battle of Hastings, and along with the bulk of his army and his two younger brothers, is killed, leaving William to claim the throne.
Dear oh dear.
Now, traditionally, in the 1066 story, we then basically skip ahead to William being crowned on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
But that's not actually how it happened. Well, it was ultimately what did happen.
There's November to think about, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly. There's November. And the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle describes how the resistance to William continued. Eldred, Archbishop of York, and the earls just mentioned, with the citizens of London and the seamen, were desirous to proclaim Edgar the Ætheling king, and promised that they would renew the war under his banner.
This is such a threat. If this is the first challenge to William's reign.
But so effectively, Edgar the Ætheling is elected King of England in October 1066. You could argue that he is technically king.
He hasn't had the crown put on his bonds.
He doesn't have a coronation, so his bonds is crownless. But nevertheless,
hairless, really, at this age as well.
Nevertheless, all the people who matter in England, who are English, have said, right, this is the guy. Probably as soon as they know the outcome of Hastings.
Yeah.
Indeed, the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle stated he was chosen as he was quite natural to them. Perhaps a dig at Harold, because he didn't have any kind of claim. Whereas it's like, yeah, and this guy, we chose him because, he's actually a prince.
Yeah. We're going back to rules-based order here.
Exactly. Maybe a sense that, we should have done this in the first... I told you we should have done this in the first place. No one could have argued if we just picked the prince.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that bloke.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, he does seem to be king. He immediately takes on some kingly duties. Apparently he, didn't select, he sort of accepted a successor for the abbot of Peterborough Abbey who came to see him. And
so he's acting like a king now?
Yes, but unfortunately, he does not get everybody fully uniting behind him in the way that he needed. Perhaps if they'd done so, they could still have averted the Norman conquest. Perhaps there was still hope. But really, because he's so young and inexperienced, he needs strong leaders around him to really fight the battle.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the strong leaders are mostly dead.
Yeah.
And William is coming. Although actually initially he isn't coming. He does actually seem to be waiting at Hastings for the red carpet to be laid out, and is a bit irked when the invitation doesn't come and he finds out that they've elected Edgar as king instead.
Really?
Yes. Because he thought, I've just killed the king and won the battle.
Yeah, what else? Oh, you're going to rebel. Oh, this is fun.
So he has to press his case more forcefully, so he secures Dover, Canterbury, the treasury at Winchester, and then marches on London. And at that point, English morale collapses immediately. The Archbishop of Canterbury blinks first and pays him homage, and then after that, it all falls apart very, very quickly. Edgar and the rest of them follow early in December, and Edgar's reign is over.
Does Edgar go up and bend the knee and all that jazz?
Yeah, Edgar has to do it as well. They all have to do it.
Fine.
But with William keen to stress that he had been Edward's chosen heir and Harold had usurped his right to the claim, Norman histories see fit to write Edgar out of the story.
Do that bit again, sorry.
Well, because William wants to stress that Harold has usurped the throne, but from William.
Not mentioning Edgar. Yes, yeah.
So they just write Edgar out of it. They just don't mention him because it's awkward, because Edgar does actually obviously have a far better claim than William, whereas Harold is the usurper.
Yeah.
So that becomes the official story for the Normans. And obviously Harold earlier on wouldn't have been stressing Edgar either. So that's why on both sides, weirdly, it's easier just to pretend
it's easier, isn't it?
that he isn't there.
But so at this point, Edgar's got the chance to just lay low.
Well, exactly. The question then, of course, is what would become of Edgar. And unlike Canute's conquest in 1016, William doesn't eliminate dynastic rivals when he comes over. And in fact, he actually keeps most people in existing posts. The people who are still alive after Hastings basically stay where they are. He doesn't get rid of anybody at first.
Okay.
May even have valued Edgar because of his kinship with Edward the Confessor, feels like he needs to be seen to treat him with respect.
And is it like does he legitimise him if he kills him?
Yeah, or martyrs him, perhaps.
Yeah.
Now, it's not to say that William actually trusts Edgar or any of the other Englishmen. So the following year, he goes back to Normandy, 1067, and he basically brings them all back with him, so they can't foment rebellion in his absence. And on his return to England, Edgar seems to have had enough, so leaves court. This summer the child Edgar departed, with his mother Agatha and his two sisters Margaret and Christina, and many good men with them, and came to Scotland under the protection of King Malcolm, who entertained them all. But he's not gone for long. The Norman conquest doesn't happen at Hastings. It began there. And we have isolated rebellions popping up across the country, but it's in the north that Edgar seems to have his support and his opportunity. So in 1069, Gospatrick, the newly appointed Earl of Northumbria, and several of his best men crossed the border to join Edgar in Scotland. And Edgar now is about 17, so he's old enough now to lead troops. He's old enough to be more of a figurehead for a rebellion than in 1066. So when an uprising starts in Northumbria, he takes his chance. Saxon rebels capture York, and they acclaim Edgar as king.
We've got to lose his head now.
Of course.
I know he doesn't. I just don't understand how.
Of course, William storms up and defeats the rebels, and Edgar runs back to Scotland.
With the bounty on his head.
However, a few months later, he's back again, because this time, Sven Estridsson, King of Denmark, that we mentioned last time in Harold Hardrada, he sends 200 ships across to the north, into the Humber, and once again, York is captured, Edgar's acclaimed as king, and William zooms up, sends everybody home, and he's off back to Scotland again.
What is he doing? What? It's almost like it's more like he's breaking up a party when you've left him at home, you've left your child at home, and they're having a party. Or also that Edgar knows this will be the response.
Well, yeah, you would have thought after the first time.
Yeah. It's very, very strange.
William follows this with the brutal harrying of the north in 1070, but Edgar is not done yet, so he persuades Malcolm III to actually lead an invasion, because he's just been protecting him at this point, but he's not getting involved. But 1070, Malcolm is going to come south, and Sven Estridsson, King of Denmark, now leads a fleet in person to England.
The old Sven's back.
Old Sven's back, so you potentially there got Denmark, Scotland, Saxon rebels. You can coordinate them, suddenly you've really got a proper threat to William.
But coordinating foreign armies together.
Indeed, they weren't. William just bribes Sven to leave, basically pays the last Danegeld.
Oh, right. And
Sven's like, to be honest,
fine,
that's enough. Malcolm sees which way the wind's blowing and goes back home to Scotland, and obviously for Edgar, that's kind of it.
They told me to do it. He's got nowhere left to run now, is he?
Well, Malcolm offers Edgar a place at his court again, but he seems to have had enough after a year or so of trying, so he decides to take his family to the continent. However, he's rarely able to determine his own fate, so a terrible storm forces them back and shipwrecks them in Scotland. And now he is compelled to seek Malcolm's protection. And it is granted, but on the condition that Malcolm finally gets to marry Edgar's sister, Margaret.
Well, I never.
Now, this, of course, gives Malcolm a stake in English affairs. He's obviously motivated to help Edgar, but also now any children he has by Margaret will have a claim to the English throne.
Yeah.
Likewise, of course, Edgar now has something of a stake in Scottish affairs. His nephews will, of course, one day be kings of Scots.
Yeah.
None of this, of course, is lost on William, who in 1071 brings a large army to Scotland and enforces Malcolm's submission.
But he's already married Margaret.
He's already married Margaret. He can't undo that, but he can demand that Malcolm pledge not to shelter any of William's enemies.
Apart from that little rascal.
So Edgar has to seek sanctuary in Flanders with Gospatrick, the former Earl of Northumbria. Now, Flanders is a safe refuge, but it's not going to provide him with any practical support. But in 1074, William's busy on the continent, so Edgar and Gospatrick come back to Scotland and try and get Malcolm to have another go at it.
You boys again!
And indeed, he's not willing to risk William's wrath. He's seen what a Norman army looks like, says no. But Edgar gets a surprise offer of assistance from King Philip I of France.
Of France?
Yeah. Which seems unlikely, but we discussed with Edward the Exile, there is a possible connection. If Edward the Exile's wife was a daughter of Yaroslav the Wise, then Edward and Philip, Edgar and Philip would have been first cousins by these daughters of Yaroslav. So that might explain why there is a certain kinship, and Philip might think of Edgar as a useful person to use against William. So, after a near decade of thwarted ambition, misfortune, dislocation, perhaps fortune finally turning in Edgar's favour, he's got the King of France offering money and treasure and weapons, a castle as well. But fortune is always a fickle friend for Edgar, and he is once more shipwrecked, losing all of the treasure and all of the weapons and everything that he'd got, and he has to return wet and miserable to Scotland once more.
That's so gloomy.
Malcolm probably wondering what he's got to do to be rid of Edgar. But he seems to have given Edgar the chat, and he urges him to just give it up and submit to William.
Yeah.
And that's what he does. So he goes to Normandy. Then King William received him with much pomp, and he was there afterwards in his court, enjoying such rights as he confirmed to him by law.
So he just joined the team?
Yeah, this time Edgar's submission is genuine. He becomes part of the Anglo-Norman court, and he doesn't rebel against William again.
Can't beat him, join him.
So the next decade is significantly quieter than the last, and Edgar doesn't really make any impression on the historical record, but the Domesday Book shows him possessing 2 estates in Hertfordshire.
Very nice.
And possibly he might have had more, but it seems like in 1086 he actually sells up shop, so perhaps these are just leftovers rather than all that he ever had. Now in his mid-30s, he's actually now become an Anglo-Norman knight. He's got his own retinue, and he's ready to seek adventures of his own. So in 1086, he takes 200 knights and apparently goes to Apulia, or Puglia,
Italy,
to participate in the Norman conquest of southern Italy. Then he makes for Normandy because he's befriended William's eldest son, Robert.
Oh, yeah.
And Orderic Vitalis described them as virtually foster brothers, and Edgar becomes one of Robert's closest advisors and was granted an honoured place at his court with his own land and riches.
Nice.
And there's something quite sweet that these two men become friends because, as we'll see, we'll do him in the next miniseries, Robert also finds himself continually denied the English throne when you would have expected it to him. So when William the Conqueror dies, he leaves Normandy to Robert, but the second son, William Rufus, becomes King of England.
Yeah.
Perhaps egged on by Edgar, sort of living vicariously through his friend, Robert will spend the next 20 years on and off pursuing the English crown and probably sees Edgar as kind of a key ally.
So now, what does William Rufus make of Edgar?
He's a bit suspicious. So in 1091, William Rufus invades Normandy, forces Robert to come to terms, and indeed one of his demands is that Edgar is expelled from court and deprived of his lands.
No. Where does he go now?
Well, I don't quite know where he goes, but he is able to reconcile with Rufus. So in 1093, we almost have a battle between William Rufus and Malcolm III. And Edgar probably goes to Scotland. So Edgar's in Scotland, Robert's with Rufus, but the two of them are like, oh, mate, friend. And they intercede and they're able to prevent the battle and bring
Rufus
the kings to
and
terms.
Edgar?
Well, Robert and Edgar, who are on opposite sides because they're mates.
Yeah.
They get chatting. They bring the rival kings, Malcolm and Rufus, to the table.
Oh, lovely.
They all have a chat and decide to go home.
Oh, brilliant.
So Edgar and Rufus seem to have been reconciled, but Malcolm and Rufus continue to squabble, and then unfortunately in 1093 Malcolm is killed in an ambush when raiding England one last time.
Yeah.
Now, instead of one of Edgar's nephews becoming king, Malcolm's brother Donalbain seizes the throne.
Oh, yeah.
and puts the youngsters at risk, as Margaret, his sister, dies pretty much as soon as she hears the news.
She becomes a martyr, doesn't she? A saint.
Yes.
Yeah.
So she dies, Malcolm dies, his eldest son by Margaret died in the battle as well. So Donalbain seizes the throne and the youngsters are sort of holed up in Edinburgh Castle,
Oh, yeah.
somewhat at risk. However, Edgar launches a rescue mission, gets them out of Scotland,
Really?
brings them south to England, and then uses his newfound influence to persuade William Rufus to support their restoration. So in 1097, Rufus sends Edgar himself to lead an army and puts his namesake nephew, Edgar of Scotland, on the throne. So defeats Donalbain and has him blinded. And then his nephew is...
That's it?
Yeah.
He conquers Scotland?
Yeah.
Edgar the Ætheling conquers Scotland?
Mm.
Wow.
So with his family restored in Scotland, Edgar then joins Robert on the First Crusade.
Of course, yeah.
Distinguishes himself at Antioch, but while they're away, William Rufus dies and the younger brother Henry takes advantage of Robert's absence to seize the throne and become Henry I.
Yeah.
So Edgar, of course, is at Robert's side in the Battle of Tanchebray in 1105 when the brothers fight in Normandy, essentially for the throne. And once again, fortune is not on their side, so Robert and Edgar are comprehensively defeated and captured by Henry.
Henry the First now?
Yes, Henry I.
Right.
So Robert, of course, is imprisoned for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
But Edgar, again, is granted clemency.
Robert wasn't his mate, though, was he?
Robert was Edgar's mate, yeah.
Robert was Edgar's mate.
Yeah.
Okay, against Rufus. Yeah.
Well, initially against Rufus, now against Henry.
Yeah.
But Henry let Edgar go unpunished.
Oh, that's almost worse, though. He's split up from his mate.
Well, yeah, but I mean, in terms of why, most likely because Henry has married Matilda, formerly Edith, who is Edgar's niece. This is another child of Malcolm and Margaret. So she's the one that continues the Saxon line and marries Henry. So thus Edgar's niece is the Queen of England and his nephew is the King of Scots. And almost certainly she intercedes with Henry on Edgar's behalf, because obviously he'd saved her.
Do what you like to your brother, but being nice to my uncle.
Exactly. And, you know, with his niece and her Saxon royal blood on the throne, weirdly, Edgar sort of isn't of any more threat to Henry. His life's work to restore the Saxon line is strangely complete.
He's weirdly won it, hasn't he?
Yeah. Not for himself, but ultimately he kept the family going, and there they are. Yeah. Ruling Scotland, ruling England. Henry and Matilda's children were Edgar's grandnephew and grandniece, which is the exact same relationship that he had had with Edward the Confessor.
He's Margaret Beaufort. He's Beaufarted. Isn't he? He's Beaufarted the situation.
He's Beaufarted his way into restoring the Saxon royal line.
Yeah.
But yes, everything's come full circle. There are no more battles for him to fight.
No.
And the last record we have of Edgar is from William of Malmesbury, whose great work of history was written in 1125.
Oh, quite close then.
Well, and William says of him, "After various revolutions of fortune, he now grows old in the country, in privacy and quiet."
Oh my days.
So he's still alive in 1125 when William writes his history, about 73 years old, living a quiet life of retirement, out of the game.
Planting potatoes.
Hopefully content.
Well, not potatoes. Parsnips. Swedes.
Turnips.
I mean, well done. It sort of feels a lot like life at the moment, where you're doing taking a load of hits for it to inevitably. This is why I get into this book. For it to pay off in the long run, and he just, for the sake of no glory, he gets to live it out. I'd take that.
Yeah. Have that many failed rebellions against William the Conqueror and William Rufus and Henry I, and
losing other people's treasure. Close to home.
Well, that was the life and the non-reign of Edgar the Ætheling. We'll review him after a quick break. So, just a quick message to say that Rex Factor are going to be doing a live show at the Ludlow Assembly Rooms on Friday the 21st of August at 7 o'clock PM. We're going to be looking at the 4 main contenders for the throne in 1066, Harold Godwinson, William the Conqueror, Harold Hardrada and Edgar the Ætheling, and we're going to ask the audience who comes to the show to decide who should have become the king. We've had lots of fun. We've been to Ludlow in previous years, and we've really loved getting the chance to meet Rex Factor fans in person. So if you are able to, then please do come along to join us on Friday, 21st of August at the Ludlow Assembly Rooms. You can get tickets directly from the Ludlow Assembly Rooms website, or we will have a link to it on our website, rexfactorpodcast.com. Hopefully, we'll get to see you there.
Battleyness!
He's too young to be effective in 1066, but Edgar proves himself a thorn in William's side in subsequent years. He had strong support in the north, so the first rebellions in his name come in 1069. Start off in the northeast, Durham, and then they move down and capture York. And Edgar set out with all the Northumbrians and all the people, riding and marching with an immense host, rejoicing exceedingly.
Lovely.
And you can imagine, he's 17 at this point. He's finally got some people. He's like, oh, it's nice up here.
Yeah, on a top of a
like
horse.
me. Yeah. Obviously, the rebellion's immediately put down by William. But then in September of the same year, King Sven of Denmark sends a fleet of about 240 ships, land in the Humber, and quickly link up with Edgar and the English rebels.
This is the bit that makes least sense.
Well, I guess Sven is sort of interested. He's kind of getting involved a little bit.
It's just a done thing at that point.
Yeah, because he's got that sort of claim as well, because he's Canute's nephew.
But I mean, why William at this point doesn't just
Lost your novel.
lost my novel? Why he doesn't lose his novel and go around slaughtering everyone?
Well, I suppose initially he's got to deal with a threat. So it says, they were met by the child Edgar and Earl Waltheof and Earl Gospatrick with the Northumbrians and all the landsmen, riding and marching full merrily with an immense army. And so all unanimously advanced to York, where they stormed and demolished the castle and won innumerable treasures therein.
Why do they keep doing this? That I'm so stupid asking these pointless questions, but they've just gone through 1066. Why do they... Where are all these... The people that have now been born to take the place of the people that have died, are they thinking, why are we fighting this one?
Well, I guess the issue is that there was no leadership or coordination, really, in once Hastings had happened. So that's not to say that all of the Anglo-Saxons between the ages of 15 and 60 are dead.
Yeah, it's not Ukraine.
It's just that they don't have any sort of leadership or structure to it, and it's happened, they can't resist it.
Yeah.
But actually, there's still a lot of people resisting William.
Yeah, it's a resistance movement then.
Yes.
That gives it a bit more energy, yeah. Right.
And obviously having influx of Danish troops is a massive boon to all of that. So we've got a slightly disparaging reference to the child Edgar.
Yeah, that's
but
purposeful. Isn't
aside from that, he is firmly at the centre of events. He's welcomed the Danes. He's at the front of the list. Takes York again, destroys William's new castle there. Apparently personally led a raid into Lincolnshire as well, Edgar. So, he's getting his jollies.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, William again just storms up and puts the rebellion down.
Yeah.
Takes them by surprise. 1070, Sven himself leads a fleet to England, and Malcolm III is persuaded by Edgar to get joined in. So like you said, you've got potentially there the recipe you want, with two foreign powers joining in.
Yeah.
North and south, because Sven sort of goes down to Ely at this point, and Hereward.
Oh, yeah.
To awaken all the people down there. But William just buys Sven off. Sven leaving kind of takes the fun out of it for Malcolm. And then, there's nothing going on there. But still, it's pretty impressive that Edgar had got Scotland and Denmark both signed up for action, even if neither of them actually bothered to fight.
Yeah.
Looks quite good.
Yeah. He can revisit that.
Ironically, Edgar's much more successful in securing the restoration of his nephews in Scotland than he ever was pursuing his own interests. So in 1094, nephews and nieces imprisoned by their Scottish uncle Donalbain after the death of Malcolm and Margaret. So they're holed up in Edinburgh Castle. There's a reaction against what was seen as the Anglicisation of the Scottish court.
Oh, yeah.
After Margaret. So presumably they're pretty vulnerable. However, John of Fordham relates that they were rescued by good old Uncle Edgar. Meanwhile, Edgar Ætheling, brother to the just-mentioned Queen, gathered together the sons and daughters of the King and of the Queen, his sister, and secretly bringing them over with him into England, sent them to be brought up by his kinsmen and acquaintances, not openly, but in hiding, as it were.
So who brought them up?
Well, Edgar's brought them to England, and he basically finds safe places to put them.
And the King of England knows that he's got them.
Well, that's probably why initially they're in hiding, because William Rufus might have thought, Why is this guy who's constantly claiming the throne just turned up with all of the Scottish princes and princesses who also have a claim on the English throne?
Looks dodgy.
Looks a little bit suspicious. I don't like this very much.
Yeah.
He does, though, seem to work to make sure that William sees the vulnerability of their position. So rather than a threat, he says, look, they're completely lost here. They need your help to get back. So Rufus can see it actually as a situation where, I can be overlord of Scotland through supporting these because they will owe me. If they become monarch, it will only be because of me.
Yeah.
So I can basically put myself above Scotland at this point. So in 1095, Rufus recognises Edgar's nephew, also called Edgar, as the rightful King of Scots.
Oh, right.
Uncle Edgar is a witness to this charter where that's officially done, which is the second of only two that survived with him as a witness.
Yeah.
Then in 1097, Rufus puts Edgar in charge of a campaign to restore his nephew to the Scottish throne. Also in this same year went Edgar the Ætheling with an army into Scotland with the king's aid, and in a severe battle won that land and drove out the king Domhnall. And in fealty to King William he there appointed as king his nephew Edgar, the son of King Malcolm and of Margaret the Queen, and afterwards again he returned to England.
Brilliant. Job done then.
Yeah, so he's done it. He kicked off one king, put his nephew on the throne, he'd won a battle, defeated the old guy, he's, as you said, conquered Scotland.
This guy needs more attention, doesn't he?
And it's quite it's a rare high point for Edgar in many ways. It's quite poignant that he succeeds in securing a crown for his nephew 30 years after he'd failed to do it for himself.
He never succeeds at his own, for his own benefit, yeah.
And there's an irony, of course, that the Normans took his throne, but then they're the ones that give him the army to secure his nephew's throne.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's lots of weird emotions going on for Edgar.
He must just be feel such a slave to fortune that whatever, he'll just ride the next wave, see what happens.
Now he also has some international adventures, the first of which was the Norman conquest of Italy in 1086.
Nice.
The conflict is losing its impetus by the time Edgar gets out there, so unfortunately we don't have any evidence of what he gets up to.
Right.
But still.
Do they get it?
I think so.
Nice.
A decade later, however, Orderic Vitalis reported that Edgar joined the First Crusade, travelling with an English fleet, landing at Latakia in the Levant in 1098 before distinguishing himself at Antioch. Amongst them, the most distinguished was Edgar the Ætheling, and he immediately took the city under his protection, and preserving his loyalty to Duke Robert, transferred it to him after the victory over the pagans.
Robert of
Normandy, his best mate.
Okay, yeah. So he went on crusade as well, Robert of Normandy. That's absolutely amazing, isn't it? Is this after he's done the Scottish stuff?
Yes, I mean some historians seen a bit of a problem with it in that he's sort of said to be there but actually is in Scotland at the time. So that's probably what happens, is that Robert goes proper and Edgar joins him later once he's done the Scottish business.
Oh, yeah.
So Edgar won't be there at the very start of it all.
Rufus is sending one off there, one over here, and they'll come back.
But he's still got time to join up later.
So he's going there with that's him in his prime. He's just completed a smash and grab and done Scotland in. Now he's off on the Crusades, and he does well on the Crusades.
Only, yeah.
Brilliant.
However, it's not all, as we saw, successful when it comes to Battleyness for Edgar. He does get involved in the resistance to the Norman conquest, but he did have an actual reign, a disputed reign, of course, and that did go out with rather a disappointing whimper.
Oh, right, yeah.
Right,
well, when he was
start.
5, yeah.
Well, at 15.
15,
yeah. I mean, remembering as well that, Harold Hardrada is in his first battle at 15, so it's not that, Edgar very much feels like a sort of a modern, slightly, he's not kind of got all of his limbs in the right place, 15-year-old that's a bit awkward.
Yeah.
There are other types.
Who are in the first team at Chelsea, yeah.
Brief moment of unity for his election, but perhaps because of Edgar's youth there is a lack of leadership. Edwin and Morcar are the senior earls, but they're particularly criticised for failing to step up to the plate. Archbishop of Canterbury was the first one to blink and renounce Edgar, and it all just falls away.
Yeah.
Archbishop Eldred came to meet him with child Edgar and Earls Edwin and Morcar and all the best men from London, who submitted then for need when the most harm was done. It was very ill advised that they did not do so before.
They should have... What?
This is stupid. You should have given up in the first place.
Right.
Why do you even bother? And alas, the resistance campaign's also pretty ineffectual. You were saying 1069. Why do they keep on doing this? The same thing. Rebels take York. Everyone gets excited. William appears and everyone runs away. Scottish and Danish support is good in theory, but it doesn't really amount to very much in reality.
Well, what if they run away?
And also, you've got to wonder, if Sven had shown more commitment and really got involved and they defeated William, surely he'd have made himself king, not Edgar.
Sven?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, it was nice that Edgar was like a sort of a useful sort of, you brought some people with you, great, yeah, we'll join them. We're here to help.
I mean, it's such a clear backstab setup. When they're both meeting for the battle, they both know that if the outcome is positive, they'll...
I mean, Sven definitely knows, but you wonder whether Edgar realised.
I think Edgar realises that he's got to make a move to be in the game, and he might realise as that dagger is coming towards him, this was the next bit.
Yes. But it didn't ultimately matter because Sven doesn't bother to fight, Malcolm doesn't bother to fight, so he doesn't really get anything out of it. He sort of seems to be in a veritable bad luck charm at this point, Edgar. Even when the King of France provided support, fate was crushingly inevitable in its disastrous intervention. But in their voyage evil befell them, for when they were out at sea there came upon them such rough weather, and the stormy sea and the strong wind drove them so violently on the shore, that all their ships burst, and they also themselves came with difficulty to the land. Their treasure was nearly all lost, and some of his men were also taken.
Human life, honestly.
After this, of course, Edgar's persuaded by Malcolm to go to William and submit, which he did, so he's effectively subsumed into the royal court as an Anglo-Norman knight. And we're saying how it's surprising how leniently everybody treats him. So you wonder if this stage maybe Edgar's a bit of a broken man. More damningly, maybe he was never a threat in the first place. Maybe William and William Rufus and Henry, maybe they all recognise that.
But that's never stopped them.
No, but it's sort of, you can be magnanimous without worrying about what happens if he comes back for more. Because I'm sure he will come back for more, and you know what's going to happen, because it's happened about 6 times already.
I don't like that theory.
William of Malmesbury was oddly hostile in his all his accounts of Edgar for no apparent reason, described him now as having silently slunk into contempt through his indolence, or, more mildly speaking, his simplicity. For how great must his simplicity be, who would yield up to the king for a single horse the pound of silver which he received as his daily stipend?
£1 of silver a day?
Yeah, so he's implying, I think his complaint is that Edgar seems to just be living a bit frivolously and buying expensive horses.
Fine.
He did, as we said, go on to have success in Scotland, but his final battle is also a disaster, and again it's for the English throne, but this time alongside his good friend and fellow nearly man, Robert Duke of Normandy, at the Battle of Tanchbury. They are defeated and captured by Henry I, and again Henry is persuaded, like his father and his brother, look, this guy, he's not a threat, just let him be. So he's always there, but is he actually, when he's not in Scotland, or he's not commanding a Norman army, is he ever actually all that up to it?
I've got to give a score. Oh, okay. I don't feel like it's a hat that really suits him, Battleyness, and I think he'd love it too.
Yeah,
I think
he tried it. He tried a lot of these hats, the Batley hats. On.
Yeah, and he'll forever remember that one where somehow he got through to the FA Cup final, and it was a year when Accrington Stanley were the others.
Yeah.
But he can always hold that. I mean, the Crusade is good. We've never gone mad for... I mean, Eleanor going on Crusade, we gave her some cool points for that, so I think it deserves some cool points.
It's all just a bit vague, isn't it? And there's, I say, historians do say, did he definitely go? Is this definitely a thing?
Italy, Scotland.
Scotland's the unequivocal success is Scotland. Takes an army, defeats Domhnall, and puts his nephew on the throne.
6.
Yeah, it's because it does feel like when you go through it all, you think he does do a lot.
I mean, I'm worried that 6 isn't enough now, actually.
But then you think, but his whole point, his reign fizzles out very quickly without any fight. He does these resistances to William, which all end, again, fizzling out, not coming to anything at all.
That's why he's nearly, though.
Well, yes, but even, like, at least, I know we were not talking about, 9s and 10s, but you remember Harold Hardrada last time, two-handed fighting into the thick of the Saxons, causing chaos, going berserker. Whereas Edgar, it's like, hey, we've got York. William's here. Oh, run away.
Yeah.
It's a bit like, I know, you're trying, but it's not really, not happening.
Scotland.
But Scotland is a big success. So, yeah, I feel like he's got some credit. He definitely deserves some credit, and he goes on the crusade, and he goes to Italy, and he seems like he becomes a competent adult, when he's actually in his 30s, when he's actually got some life experience and training behind him and retinue, then he does pretty well. He's just not in a position when he's a young boy and teenager. He's just at the mercy of events. He's got nothing. He doesn't know what's going on, really. Yeah.
And, it's something that Edward I never managed.
Ooh.
I'm sticking with 6, but I'm tempted to go higher, but I'm going to stick with 6.
Yeah. My thing is thinking that if you are any form of military commander between 1066 and 1105, and you line up and you see Edgar is on the opposing army, do you say, okay, we need to get ourselves game face on, guys, it's Edgar? Or do you think, okay, guys, to be honest, no, don't worry, you can leave your armour off, he'll miss. Something will happen. He'll be about to strike my head off, and then he'll
get run over by an elephant.
Yeah, something will go wrong. He will never win. He doesn't win. That's not what happens to Edgar.
Then 30 years later, he's planting his potatoes, and they're dead in the cold, cold ground. I'll stick then.
You're going to stick with the 6. I'm going to be a bit harsh with Battleyness. I think I'm going to go 5.5.
Okay.
I'm going to go just into the positive, because actually it is pretty impressive what he does in Scotland and his subsequent career. And he was ready for it then. He was ready for it in his 30s. He wasn't ready when 1066 came.
No.
Anyway, still 6 and a 5.5. 11.5 for Battleyness.
Nice.
Scandal.
According to the lover of tall tales, John of Forden, Scottish chronicler, when Edgar rescues his nephews from Scotland and kept them in secret in England, he was accused of treason by a member of Rufus' court and sentenced to trial by combat.
Sorry, who was?
Edgar.
By who?
Someone at Rufus' court who obviously found out that he brought the Scottish princes and princesses home without telling Rufus.
Without telling Rufus?
Well, you remember, because we said that how initially he keeps it secret, and we said how Rufus might look at that as being a bit suspicious.
Yes.
There's the suggestion that he does look at it as being suspicious when he finds out about it, and before Edgar's had a chance to
I thought he went up there like on a mish.
No, the initial rescue. Thankfully, an English knight, a rather ironically named Godwin of Winchester, stood as Edgar's champion and defeated the challenger, so Edgar was let off. He was restored.
God. And the other fellow dead?
I'm not sure, was he dead, or did he just
submit?
But either way, Edgar wins.
It's a crap form of justice.
Now, it is true that a tenant of Edgar's estates in 1086 was a chap called Godwin, and when he goes off on the Crusades, he is associated with a man who's Robert's son of Godwin. So sort of an accusation of treason, but equally, I think we'd probably say it wasn't treason.
Yeah, definitely wasn't.
I mean, he does rebel a lot, but you sort of feel like he's kind of he's legitimate to do that.
It's longer term treason. He's going for the long game of genetics, which, if you were to be really pernickety, is the same, and he should get it in the neck for that. But kings only really care about the immediate threat, don't they? Yeah.
And other than that, I don't really have any evidence of him upsetting the apple cart. It's just the rebellions, but nothing of the bedroom variety, nothing really terribly scandalous or bad.
Rebellions are pretty good. It's amazing that he gets away with them.
It is, but I guess, would we see it as scandalous that he rebels? No. I think we'd say, well, it's sort of a legitimate rebellion. That's what he should be doing, really. That's what he is. He's a rival claimant. I'm not sure we've really
I don't think we've got anything.
0 for scandal.
Subjectivity.
Well, something quite sweet about Edgar is the way that he keeps on coming back to England.
Yeah.
After his adventures in the Holy Lands are done, William of Malmesbury is very critical of him coming back. Edgar, having lost his companion, returned and received many gifts from the Greek and German emperors, who, from respect to his noble descent, would also have endeavoured to retain him with them. But he spurned their offers, through regard to his longing for his native land. For truly the love of their country deceives some men to such a degree that nothing seems pleasant to them, unless they can breathe their native air. Edgar, therefore, deluded by this silly desire, returned to England.
He's saying he should have stayed in Mykonos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's saying, look, you got a lovely offer in Germany, a lovely offer in Byzantium, and you come here, you idiot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So, but really seems to have it in for Edgar, but actually it indicates, A, that you've got renowned courts who are offering him a place, which is sort of a compliment, even if it's just because of his birth. But B, he eschews the lucrative offers because he actually just wants to come back to England.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's quite touching. You know, after all that time, all those adventures, now in his 50s, he still has this sense of longing for England. He has a sense of it being home, even though he never somehow has a base.
Yeah.
There is something that calls him back to England. There's a commitment there.
This
is nice.
England.
Ultimately, however, his general absence from the sources means we don't really have much evidence of him really leaving any kind of legacy. His one apparent act as king was to receive a new abbot in Peterborough. But I think that may even have been after he submitted to William. I'm not even sure if that's before or if it's after, and it's just that they were a bit confused in Peterborough as to who was king now. So, weirdly, it's almost a negative because it just got William really cross with the abbot of Peterborough. So it didn't even have a positive outcome.
Yeah.
He just enjoyed his little moment.
There's nothing there either, is there?
So I'm not sure, other than a general sense of commitment to England, we don't have any record of him doing anything subjectivity.
Or any subjects to be, have any effect on.
I mean, I guess, rescuing his nephews and nieces, I guess that ultimately helped restore the Saxon line. He sort of plays a part in that.
I don't, no. No. Although I'd like to have been his subject. There's nothing.
No, I don't think. I'm going to give him a 1 just for the.
Oh, okay.
For the sentiment, for the he was in the right place. Just wasn't
turning up, literally a point for turning up.
Yeah. So it's a 0 for you, a 1 for me, and a 1 for subjectivity.
Longevity.
Now, he's a bit of a funny one, longevity, because unusually he was actually declared king.
Yeah.
So you could say he has a reign from the 14th of October 1066 to sort of early December 1066, so about 2 months. But he's here as a nearly monarch, and he does continue to contest the throne for 8 years before he makes his submission to William.
Yeah.
But does he ever completely give up on his thing? Is he like, no, even if all the Norman princes died and they came to me and all the bishops gave him the throne, I would say, no, I don't want it? Or is it always there in the back of his mind? Is that why he keeps coming back to England? Because he's like, I just feel like it could be my turn next.
Well, recent history has shown that nothing was permanent.
Yes. So I'm inclined to be generous to Edgar and say that his nearly reign starts with the death of Edward the Confessor in 1066, when he should have become king, and continues basically for his life.
Oh, right.
We could say 1074 he gives up, but I don't know. I feel like it could still have worked out differently.
Yeah, 1074 would be a natural bookend.
Yeah,
but that's his whole thing, isn't it? Being that survivor, being always there in the background, ready. Could
it have all played out? Could he have deceived them all?
Yeah,
and just outlived them, William IV style. Was that his new tactic? Is like, I'll just let them die first.
Just you do all of that immediate fighting and everything. I'm working on the genes and just eating a lot of carrots.
So, on that basis, we know he's still alive in 1125. We don't technically know when he dies. We don't technically know if he dies. But we assume probably.
Yeah. So,
if we say 1066 to 1125, that would be a nearly reign, and that's how long his reign potentially could have been. If he had become king, that's what the reign would have been. So that's 59 years, and a score of 19 out of 20, which is the second best for the series.
Well done. Oh, I like it that he gets really, really big scoring in one place.
Dynasty, not the programme.
We have no record of Edgar marrying. Now, the Huntingdon Priory Chronicle in 1291 suggests, however, that he had a daughter, Margaret, who married Ralph Lovell of Castle Carey and then later Robert de Londres, both of whom have estates in southern Scotland. Now, it's a plausible name, Margaret, as a daughter. It's a plausible location, southern Scotland, where he had support. But the identification isn't widely accepted. And apparently the relevant text is missing some key words from it that later people have filled in the blanks and made assumptions about what it says.
Wow.
And I think one of the key phrases might be something along the lines of daughter of.
Right. So they literally filled in the blanks for what they thought made sense.
Yeah. So I'm not sure on this one that we can really give him any credit.
No, it's spurious.
As such, that is a 0 for Dynasty. No surviving legitimate children. It's the sister Margaret that the Saxon line lived on, not through Edgar. So overall, that gives Edgar a score of 31.5, which was fourth for the series so far.
Not bad.
Not bad. Well, he's been very up and down, hasn't he?
Yeah. Good score, 0, 1. Best score, 0. Yeah. Yeah, it's very Edgar, isn't it?
But it's not all about the score. Does he have that certain something, the lasting legacy, the great achievement, the star quality that we call
Rex Factor!
What do we think for the forgotten man of 1066?
He is my personal Rex Factor pin-up.
You love Edgar.
Yeah. I think definitely yes.
When we did him we did a special episode on him. So if you want more on Edgar, then there's a special episode and special episodes extra. We go into more detail on all of this. You compared him to the ducks on the Usborne book that you have to look for, and he's there on every page. Not the starring role. He's always sort of there in the background. And it's quite
Edgar
fun
the Duck. I'd forgotten about that.
Edgar the Duckling. Yeah.
Gosh, I haven't read that book in a while.
But yeah, so it's something weird about the way he just carries on being there, and the fact that he's still alive in 1125. He almost outlives the Norman era.
I really like him. Yeah, I think it's really Rex Factory, the survival.
Born in Hungary, acclaimed king, the rebellions.
Well, he must have something about him to get William the Conqueror off his back thrice.
Apparently he's funny. Let's hope so. And, if he'd been just a few years older, probably the Norman conquest never would have even happened, because if he'd been there as an adult, he would have been too much for Harold to have really overthrown an adult
and have
prince.
had Harold on his side.
William would have had no real claim, because William gets papal approval for the invasion of England. He surely wouldn't have done if Edgar had been king in the first place.
Yeah.
So the whole Norman conquest could have been avoided. And then he loses, but he goes on to have the heroic stuff. He gets his nephew back as King of Scots.
That's Rexy.
Italy, Crusades. I guess the counter-argument is it because he wasn't fortunate enough, maybe he wasn't charismatic enough, maybe he wasn't capable enough to succeed. Actually, maybe that's the reason he keeps on getting to have all these goes and he gets to live this interesting life, is maybe just because he's a bit of a... Maybe everyone's like, he's a bit of a... He's not all there. He's not that great. He's no threat. Just let him be, Guys, Edgar, make a place for Edgar. Come on.
Yeah.
No, come on.
Here I am, Edgar, Rex Factor winner. Yeah, sit down.
So, is it damning, the fact that we have a long story for Edgar? Would it be better if he'd gone out in a blaze of glory in 1069 and been the last Saxon in the way that Harold was the last Viking?
Yeah, but we'd have been denied this great sort of this patchy history that has the makings of legend written all over it. I'm sure we talked about this in that episode, how there's so many possibilities for his life that would make an excellent film. Oh, I think he's Rexy all over.
He's definitely not a great Nearly Monarch in the sense of he was so, in the way that Harold Hardrada was so powerful.
Yeah.
And incredible. You think, wow, what would he have done? You don't think that for Edgar, but it is an amazing life story.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the fact that he was the one that should have been king and that it would have changed everything if he had been king.
Yeah.
1066 would have just been another year, no Norman conquest. Might all have continued. Probably you'd have had quite a few unfortunate schemes that would have all come to nothing, but you'd have kept on somehow surviving them.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I agree as well. He's he's an odd character, but it's an intriguing character.
Yeah.
And it's what the Nearly Monarchs is all about. This whole other life and story after 1066.
It's brilliant.
So well done, Edgar. Rex Factor winner. I think that might be our first ever 3 in a row.
Really?
Yeah.
Well done them.
So Edward the Exile, his father, Harold Hardrada, and now Edgar the Ætheling, all Rex Factor winners.
Well done, chaps.
Correspondence Corner.
So that was Edgar the Ætheling. Head to our website, rexfactorpodcast.com, to get all our links and more information about the podcast, and get in touch to let us know what you think. We'll do a Right to Reply episode going through your messages in relation to all of the Saxon Nearly Monarchs in a few weeks, after a couple of interview episodes we've got coming up. So do send in any thoughts or questions that you have. If you'd like to support the podcast and get more Rex Factor episodes, join the Privy Council at patreon.com/Rex Factor. You get this podcast ad-free and over 450 bonus episodes and counting. And we have some new Privy Councillors to welcome to the
Here
fold.
we go.
Faye, Toby Burton, Jen E, Ruth Hines, You Made a Bear, Helen Hillman, Natasha Dunn, Jennifer Subler, Nathaniel Reisinger, Rowan Jones, Chloe Sansom, Sarah Wakefield, Alyssa Hauk, Dave Voss, and Micah.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much to all of you. Welcome to the Privy Council. That's all from us today, and that's it for our Saxon Viking mini-series in the Nearly Monarch. So we've done our first little foray.
Oh, well done, everyone. We've made it this far. We might as well carry on listening. Huh?
Yeah, why not? Why not? We will be moving on to the Norman Nearly Monarchs next. So the first of those will be Edgar's best mate, Robert, Duke of Normandy.
Oh, nice. Yeah. The other half of that bromance.
Yes. Before we get started on that, though, we'll have a couple of interview episodes lined up that will both expand on aspects of Edgar's life. First of which, we'll be talking to Professor Tom Licence about Edward the Confessor and the succession, who was really meant to be king in 1066. Is Edgar responsible for what happened? But you may have also seen him mentioned in the news recently about a theory that Harold Godwinson didn't charge up on land to meet Hardrada, but actually went by boat. So a chance to talk to him about that as well.
Nice.
See you next time.
Cheerio.